The views and opinions expressed on all radio shows broadcast on Tom's Radio Toronto are entirely those of the hosts, guests, and callers who are entirely responsible for all show content and do not in any way reflect the opinions of Tom's Radio Toronto or its staff. These broadcasts are presented and made public as entertainment and general information only, in the hope that they will be entertaining and informative to listeners. They are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or mitigate in any way any disease or condition, or to promote any specific lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice, nor is the information presented necessarily accurate or verifiable.
Good afternoon, Wisdom Show fans. I'm your host, Bruce Gilboard, and I'm sailing a solo ship this session. Can you shut the door, please? Yeah, okay. We just have a technical glitch just for a second, guys. So, first of all, it's the holiday of Sukkot, and it's a festival of joy, and we're celebrating that this week. Someone asked me, what is the purpose of our show? And I said, I've got 10 reasons. So I thought I might just read them to you guys and bring it to your attention. So, the purpose of the Wisdom Show is selfish. Number one, Bruce is learning to become a bit more wise. Okay? My guest hiding in the corner is nodding improvement. So I passed number one. Number two, we are helping you, our viewer, to become a bit more wise. We are, number three, challenging the assumption that the Bible is an outdated, if not evil book. It references slavery and so on, so someone can misconstrue it as approval and sanctioning of it. We are teaching biblical literacy because, frankly, people don't even understand what that phrase means. We are teaching text-based analysis. I don't think anyone sees this in English literature, maybe in Shakespeare. We are presenting a challenge, number 6. I suggest this book is the greatest book in the world, so great that nothing in any language comes close to it for multiple meaning in the Hebrew wordplay, ability to motivate one to improve their personal character, and provide a compelling storyline. That's quite a challenge. Let's see if there's only one way to determine if that's right. Let's work together and go through the text. Number 7, we are teaching the world about the depth and primacy of the Hebrew language, something that people don't appreciate. And I don't know all the languages, so that's just my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong. Frankly, in the first verse of today's chapter 12, we might just hit on that. We are challenging the veracity of the foolish and deceitful idea of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions anti-Zionist fraudsters by showing them good things are coming out of Jerusalem, as they say. Number 9, as a counterbalance, we show our viewers the very good stuff that has come out of Jerusalem and continues to this day. Number 10, if you want honesty over diplomacy, then maybe the obnoxious disclaimer isn't such a bad thing after all. So, that's that. Now, another thing to Wisdom fans. Our friend David Altman, in the last week or two, stumbled on a website that does all the presentation so much better than what I was doing. I was going through about a half a dozen books of translations of medieval commentaries in Hebrew and English. And it was tough scholarly work, and I'm certainly I'm an amateur when it comes to that. But my friend found the Nafshi Project, N-A-F-S-H-I, so nafshi.org, and they put together presentation line by line. That's what I'm going to be going through today. It's so good that I emailed my colleagues, past presenters, and said, we've got to revamp the show in order to be in line with the presentation material, because it's too good to ignore. So, ladies and gentlemen, you're just going to see me reading my highlights, going through it, and trying to explain it, and my own notes on it. Okay? Sound decent? Do you understand the purpose of the show now? Okay, very good. I got approval from my in-house guest. So, the first chapter, so grab your Bibles. The first chapter we're on is introduction. I've said this before, I'll say it again. The book of Proverbs is divided into 3/3, more or less, of the 31 chapters. the first section is more or less, you're a jerk and you're not listening. Fine, if you read through it as we have, it becomes apparent. The second third is, you're still a jerk, but you're listening now. So it's not so bad, you've improved. That's where we are. We're in the middle of that second third. The third third is, congratulations, you're listening. Congratulations, you're no longer a jerk. Now I'll tell you what life is really about. And the whole structure of the book, King Solomon is dragging us through in a headlock to make us more wise. And you can see, when you follow as we do, from beginning to end, rather than pick up a random sentence or a random chapter, you can see that flow. However, this middle section appears to be a lot of bumper sticker slogans that stand independent. Some are coupled together, some are tripled together. That's sort of this is a much more challenging part to relate to our viewers and listeners. But I'm trying my best and we'll continue, okay? So chapter 12, the book of Proverbs, and the first verse, and I stick to my fluent in Hebrew and my day school listeners. I try to cater to the English non-Hebrew audience and then go into Hebrew if I have to. So the first line, he who loves moral discipline loves knowledge, but he who hates criticism is a boor. So let's take a look at that. First of all, that word bore is actually in Hebrew be'ur or ba'ar. It's actually the word mean burning. We use it in another context. And the fact that it coincidentally sounds like bear, I find maybe it's not a coincidence. But what they're saying that person who loves moral discipline, loves knowledge, for it is acquired with the aid of discipline, as I insert. But he who hates criticism, even though it is well reasoned, is a boor who will never achieve knowledge. That boor, that burning, one said it refers to the animal-like passions in people. That's why they use that word. The proverb explores the relationship between a person's ability to acquire knowledge and his attitude to moral discipline and being rebuked. Moral discipline is the harsher of these two methods of intervention. A positive attitude towards moral teachings ensures access to knowledge. In contrast, a negative attitude towards the milder rebuking means that the person will be unresponsive to improvement and is like to go through life without a significant amount of knowledge. Such an ignorant person is called a boor. Now, he has, the way he set it up in the Nafshi project, he has a brief discussion of what the verse is, then additional insights. And there's 8 additional insights here. One is, this moral discipline is primarily oriented to the development of moral character, of good character traits, and in turn, they are an essential condition of learning the wisdom of the Almighty. He says one that I think it's about me, so I ask it with a question mark, and if you feel you know me, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. But I wrote Bruce question mark. If you see a person who's under the influence of his appetites and desires, but is responsive to moral discipline or positive criticism, you can be sure he is a person of intelligence. His failings are not due to a lack of intelligence, but a weak will. Hopefully the reproof will help him overcome his weakness. So, my friend is looking, is pondering. The whole chapter is bumper sticker phrases that I stop and think about it, and most of the time I conclude I don't have the time to go deeper on this. I remember when I was, after rabbinical college, I was in my early 20s, I arrived back in Toronto. A friend picks me up. I was about 22, he was about 18. He's driving his van, we're driving down the street, and he sees a girl walk by, and he does what's it called, a rubberneck? He looks around, and as we're driving, he's still looking out the window, and I'm terrified. I haven't, I'd lived, in the old city of Jerusalem without any cars, and I'm in a van and he's not looking in front of him, but I'm terrified. It struck me so much, it was so stark, and I thought, is that the guy who lacks moral discipline? Is he the boor? Is he that guy? So there. We're on to verse 2. This is about self-sufficiency. The beauty of the Nafshi.org project, he does all the thinking. I'm just reading pages. The verse is, a good person seeks favor from God, but a scheming person brings about calamity. So he's setting up the next half a dozen verses, by the way. They're saying, if you're a good boy, you'll acquire wealth and everything. But if you're a scheming guy, you'll screw it up, you'll fail. So my personal view is, well, you can scheme a little, you might get ahead, you can play the stock market, so I'm having trouble with all this. So he calls it self-sufficiency. One of the main challenges a person must face in life derives from the instinctive desire to be self-sufficient. Okay, fine, so far so good. This desire causes him to rely on his own cleverness in planning his life and choosing what to do in any situation. What he should be doing is live with his life with reference to the will of the Creator. That means doing what is right and good instead of following his own crafty schemes, no matter how innovative they may seem. He's doing this to bad boys. He should look to the Almighty to provide him with what he needs in life, rather than rely on his own clever ideas to obtain them, especially since his schemes may tempt him to go against the will of God. See, I have problems with that. I call it the Disney approach. If he does what Hashem wants him to do, he will live in God's favor and help bring blessing, how do I say blessing? A good effect to the world. But if he chooses to rely on himself, his clever schemes will be self-destructive and he will be ripe for calamity. What I just read, I'm not sure, I'm not sold on it. I'm just not sold on it. And when in my career as a financial planner, I showed people ways to save taxes and ways to invest in what he might call clever schemes. They're all legal, of course. But you got to do that to get ahead. So that, just to repeat the verse, a good person seeks favor in God, but a scheming person brings about calamity. And let's go, and it's, I wrote a comment when I prepared this a week ago. I forgot how I applied, but in investing, there's such a thing, in the investment cycle, there's such a thing called bandwagon buying. When everyone hears a cryptocurrency or the FANG funds or whatever is going well, they all jump in and buy it, and then when people start to lose faith in it, they call it panic selling. And that's a cycle not to be, you want to be the opposite of that. That fits here in terms of what I would advocate. The best advice to do the opposite of what the verse is saying. A lot of this stuff, and I look at my friend, he's puzzled by what I'm saying, and that's why he's here, to give me the feedback. Let's go on to the next verse, verse number 3. Oh, you know what? Before we do that, I don't have a clever way to say let's go to a commercial. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go to commercial. We'll be back on the other side.
Our company is committed to providing truthful, honest, competent, and result-oriented service through advising and representing our clients in Canada and overseas in a wide range of immigration matters. We focus on providing support, building dependable relationships, and promoting success. We are dedicated to understanding what results you want and to helping you understand what actions we can take on your behalf.
Thank you for sticking with us, wisdom fans. We're on to verse 3 of the book of Proverbs, and the verse is, "A man will not be established by wickedness, but by the root of righteousness he will never falter." You see, it's a continuation of the previous thought about good guys and bad guys. The key concept here is stability and continuity. As we've seen in a previous chapter, a life of stability is the natural reward for righteousness and integrity. Young married couple of kids, they grow old together, he dies, she dies, he retires, she retires, there's all stability. That's what this is all about. A life that is long and productive can be visualized as a tower having strong foundations. Should be singular. Even when powerful winds shake the tower, its foundations remain firm. The other day I was in Liberty Village, and there's a dog park. There were about 50 adults in their 30s and 40s, and correspondingly 50 dogs or 25, whatever it was. There were no kids. It looked surreal. It just looked, they were there taking care of their dogs. They didn't have what it takes to take care of their kids, is at least the impression that I got. And it just looked like if I were to paint a painting today, that would be the painting, and it would be a sad painting. In the current segment, the book of Proverbs builds on the concept, adding the important element of continuity, which is associated with the roots of a living tree. And I'll read okay. Roots provide vital nourishment for the tree. Similarly, the righteous person has deep spiritual roots, which enable him to transmit his legacy to future generations. So I'll tell you a brief personal thing. My father dies when I'm 14. My mother dies when I'm 24. I go to my aunt, who was quite a forthright tower of strength and a leader and the matriarch of the family to some degree. She says to me, typical of her, typical of the way she was, she says, "Now that your family's gone up in smoke, what are you going to do?" And I look back, but I answered it, I was tough then. I answered, "I'm going to make a family of my own." And she said, "Good." That stability and continuity I was seeking, I wouldn't have used that phrase. And somehow I was plugged into that perspective. I think in this generation, they're not odd. That was the default thing from previous generations, not the default today, unless maybe in rural communities. So he also has a section for each verse on additional insights. I highlighted this. A person who builds his life on a foundation of material wealth that he gathered unethically will find that it is not strong enough to support him. His material possession will be lost in the end. So again, it's a bumper sticker statement, and I sure hope it's true. That's all I can tell you. Now, it continues. We went to bums, and then we went to continuity. Now we're on to matrimony. So you see, it's triple in the sense. If you look in most of the commentaries, they don't have it set up in paragraphs, but it looks that way to me. Excuse me. The verse reads, the famous Ashes Chayil isn't just referred to later, it's referred to here. An Ashes Chayil, a woman of character, as he translates it, is her husband's crown. But a shameful wife is like a rot in the bones. So we'll get to you have an idea what rot in the bones refers to? To my ghost friend here? I didn't till none of the other commentaries gave it to me till the Nafshi Project gave it to me. And it fits so nice, I'll save it to the end. And it's such harsh language. She's like a crown. If she's good, she's like a crown to him. And if she's bad, she's like bone cancer. Like this is tough. The key concept, the unique relationship between a husband and wife is symbolized by the creation of the first man and woman from one human body. Am I getting to okay? Because of the closeness of this relationship, each marriage partner tends to identify with the other and see that person as an extension of his or herself. As a result, a husband tends to have high expectations of his wife's character and she of his character. By the way, everything I refer to a man and a woman, it's interchangeable, as the commentaries say. The phenomenon of high expectations encourages a man to make an ongoing effort to improve his character. I hope my wife's not listening. In order to meet his wife's expectations. The same is true for her. The way a spouse responds to the other's expectations can bring great joy and mutual happiness, but can also result in ill will and strife. This proverb, or this verse, or this sentence, explores the range of a wife's response to her husband's expectations, beginning with a wife who delights her husband by exceeding his expectations, and ending with a wife who disappoints her husband. The book of Proverbs uses vivid metaphors, to say the least, and to illustrate the intensity of emotions that marital expectations can arouse. These metaphors build on the overlapping sense of identity between husband and wife. The woman whose character exceeds her husband's expectation is visualized as a glorious crown for his head. At the other extreme, the disappointment of unmet expectations is perceived as a rot in his very bones. The extremes in the husband's response to his wife's expectations can be assumed to be the mirror image of those covered here. So, he has, in additional insights, the woman of character and then the shameful wife. And the shameful wife, a shameful wife is like an illness in the bones for which there is no cure because they share the same home and constantly affect each other. And I get this. She is like a part of him, as it says, bone of my bones in the Adam and Eve story. That's where, it's not a rib that was, the way the story goes, that was taken out of him and used to make her. It more translates a bone. We call it a rib, I don't know why. It's as good as any. You could have said, what's that thing, not kidney, that other thing, a vestigial organ. It could have been anything. But the rib cage and everything, they said rib. But it just means bone is perhaps the best. But the point is, that's where they're getting this reference to. If she's bad, she's like a rot in the bones, and that refers to him. It's nothing more. It's one of the intimate meshes of male and female here. So that's the. By the way, I want to say something sheepish. This isn't my stuff. This isn't what I'm getting from here. I'm reading what grabs me and captures my attention, and that one captured my attention. But the bottom line is, be a good boy, your wife will be perceived better. Be a good girl, your husband will be perceived better. And somewhere along the line, get married. Number 5, he characterizes it as thoughts. So the verse reads, the thoughts of and I'm translating it as I'm going along. The thoughts of the righteous are towards justice, but the strategies of Rishaim, of bad guys, are towards deceit. So there's 4 elements here. Thoughts of righteous, towards justice, and then paralleling strategies of bad guys towards deceit. So one thing that doesn't play up with thoughts and strategies. So that one we'll see if we get to it. A person's mind is continuously active during his waking hours. Sometimes it haunts us. Much of this thinking is directed towards what he will be doing or experiencing in the near and distant future. These considerations have 3 primary aspects. By the way, this is the way Sugi and the Inside Baseball, Sugi and the Gemara works this similar here, and dream analysis works similar here. Don't ask me how I know this. These considerations have 3 primary aspects: of visualizing possible situations and courses of action, choosing a particular course of action, and 3, developing contingency schemes to implement that course of action in various real-life situations. This is the structure of the dynamic of thoughts, and a similar thing with dreams, and a similar thing. Dreams and the Sugya Gemara more closely enmeshed. The first of these aspects involves simple, straightforward thinking. Such thinking is based on one's experience and attitude. Fine. A righteous person, I'll call him the good guy, it's tzaddik, but I'll call him the good guy, is naturally inclined to use the style of thinking, for he has trained his mind to visualize courses of action and goals that lead to doing what is right and good. The second aspect involves focused thinking. That's where you're selecting of the array you put before you. The second aspect involves focused thinking to choose a course of action, but the good guy, the tzaddik, has less need to call upon this, for his way is clear to him after a lifetime of study. It's on autopilot to choose the right course. You know, should I tell my boss to go to hell? Should I give my boss a thank you note? Should I just ignore my boss? What's gonna, which one is it gonna be? The third aspect involves deep thinking and intense analysis to respond to whatever contingency may arise. That's your plan B. This style of thinking is characteristic of the wicked person, the Russia, not to be confused with a northern Asian country, who develops complex schemes to deceive and defraud others. He knows that if you can't be good, be careful. Now, these in the Proverbs, tzaddikim, good guys, and rashayim, bad guys, are contrasted by the type of thinking about the future in which they are likely to be engaged. The good guys have it easy because their pattern of thinking is based on the Torah and the biblical lore, etc., and a righteous lifestyle. They are drawn to act justly to protect the rights of others. Such simple, straightforward thoughts are referred to as machshavas, thoughts. I'm afraid I'm going to get too much into Hebrew and Jewish philosophy here. That's what I'm concerned with. The point I want to bring this one to a halt because we're going to have a commercial in a minute. What I want to say is there's a lot deeper thing to how thoughts are organized in this one. I'll read one paragraph. I don't even know if I'll get away with it. The three aspects of thinking correspond to military planning. The first step is to consider what might happen and what options are available. Do we pull all the soldiers out of Afghanistan, leave the equipment, and do it in the middle of the night? That's one option. This is referred to as basic thinking, machshava. The second step involves choosing the best option that is consistent with one's goals. This is referred to as counsel, eitzah. The third step involves analyzing what the enemy forces, that's your plan B, might do in response to the chosen course of action. That's what Biden didn't do. That's what General Milley didn't do, or so it appears. Involving analyzing the enemy's forces might do in response to the chosen course of action. That's your plan B, or your second level of thinking. And determining what, what advice or eitzah to use in dealing with it. This is referred to as strategizing, takbula. The point is, it's all mapped out in the commentaries on verse 5. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, and Owen, let's go to the second installment of commercials, and I hope you'll come back to see Bruce on his solo maiden voyage. Not my solo voyage.
Our company is committed to providing truthful, honest, competent, and result-oriented service through advising and representing our clients in Canada and overseas in a wide range of immigration matters. We focus on providing support, building dependable relationships, and promoting success. We are dedicated to understanding what results you want and to helping you understand what actions we can take on your behalf.
Kumita kahit nasa bahay ka lang gamit ang iyong Show My King online franchise business. Step 1, you post. Step 2, we deliver. Step 3, you earn. Tandaan, sa Siomai King lang yan!
We're back from the commercial. We're looking through the book of Proverbs, chapter 12, and we're looking at verse 6. It's called deceptive speech, or how to lie. If you read this, if you study this as I'm doing, you can also pull out the opposite conclusions and learn how to lie. Did you think that was coming, ladies and gents? Key concept. God gave man the precious power of speech so that he can share wisdom, do kindness, and communicate with his Creator. However, some people use this wonderful gift as a tool to camouflage evil intentions. In effect, these guys have set up an ambush using a flow of mellifluous words to catch the innocent unaware. These wicked people find the opportunity to gain advantage difficult to resist. However, fair-minded people, the word is yesharim, which means straight, so I call them straight shooters. However, straight shooters are saved from falling into this pattern of evil because they cannot bring themselves to utter untruths. The verse is, the words of the bad guys lie in ambush for blood by deceiving their victims. But the mouth of the straight shooters will rescue them from the temptation to deceive. I want to point out in the beginning, the first part said it refers to the mouth of the bad guys. The second the first refers to divrei, to the words. The second refers to upi, to the mouth. So they're using different things. We'll get into lips and mouths and what they symbol. I don't know. It's stronger than symbolize. In this proverb, bad guys and good guys, Rishayim and Yesharim, are contrasted by the way they use their power of speech. The bad guys use it as a means to lay a trap for the unwary and thereby commit serious physical or emotional injury. Either type of injury is referred to as blood. The good guys are protected from the distortion of the power of speech by their allegiance to the truth. They simply cannot bring themselves to utter falsehood despite the temptation. So, let's see if so, do I want to get into this or not? There's subtleties in the Hebrew language and in the book of Proverbs where, and I don't know if your translation picks up on it, but in this reference to words of the bad guys or the mouth of the good guys. The additional thoughts has a description of the bad guys and a description of the good guys. Let's see what it has. They only focus on one. The bad guys, Rishayim. The bad guys often hide their true intentions. They sometimes camouflage their intent so skillfully that their fair-minded victims who give them the benefit of the doubt protect them from culpability. And he gives a biblical example I don't want to go into. But this is the thing, giving the benefit of the doubt, I don't know where that's from. It's certainly used in law, in courtrooms. But I don't know if that's a good thing. I'm just not sure. I've never really considered it. That's the bad guys. I don't want to go into any of this. Let's go on to the next verse. Chapter 12, verse 7. This is he calls it foundations. The verse is, when the Rashayim, the bad guys, are overthrown, they are no more. But the house of good guys will endure. So that's a bumper sticker. So let's see what happens with this bumper sticker. The key concept, righteous people build their lives on firm foundations. And if you know anyone who's a good guy, they're married with kids. They're not at that damn dog park. Righteous people build their lives on firm foundations. They are like a house that is designed to endure. Even when they encounter a setback, they do not lose their confidence and their faith in God. In contrast, the wicked, the Rishayim, have built, the wicked, he says the wicked, I could say the bad guys, have built their lives on superficialities. When their facades collapse, such people themselves become buried under their ruins. It's a bumper sticker. So my question is this true? Historically, oh wait, am I going in the wrong place? He lists, he's a lot of these things, and Plato also referred to individuals and nations. Does this law and this custom and this advice refer to individuals and or nations? So that's the thing about good nations and bad nations similarly. I can't even read my notes. Depends on how far, he's talking about Israel surviving other nations. Surviving the Egyptians, surviving the Greeks, surviving the, what are the guys in Iran, the Persians. All these other empires have vanished. The Egyptians today are not the Egyptians of yesteryear. They just occupy some semblance of the same land. They don't speak the same language. They don't speak the same, they don't have the same religion. They're not the same. They just use the same name. But Jews, Israel, etc., chosen people, they've endured them all. So does this idea of being a good boy and being devoted to God, does it pass all the data points of history? And when I was looking at it just as a thought, I stumbled on it, data and date. I wonder if that word is related. That's veering off. Let's go on to verse 8, chapter 12, verse 8. It's entitled Intellect and Heart, because people say he's got a good heart. What does your heart say? This kills me. When people say, smart, wise people, well, what is, in the romantic novel or some junk on television, well, what does your heart say? And it kills me, because you want to say, what does your brain say? Your heart can do you in. The key concept is there are two related, I'm skipping paragraphs. First of all, the verse, a man may be praised according to the power of his intellect, but the man of a corrupted heart is to be scorned. Lefi yishkulu yahalu yish. There are two related instruments of the mind that enable a person to acquire wisdom. These are the power of the intellect, seichel, and also the Hebrew word seichel is not too cognitively distant from the word psychological. Psycho, seichel, it's the same word, the meaning is the same. These are the power of intellect, psychology I'll translate, seichel, and the power of insight, bina, which is understanding. The intellect, so we're talking about intellect and understanding. The intellect enables the person to judge the truth of an idea or a fact, distinguish it from falsehood. Insight or understanding enables the person to visualize an idea in his mind and relate one idea to another. Both intellect and insight are essential, but ultimately intellect takes precedence because it is the use of intellect that directly enables a person to adhere to the truth of this religious concept. In additional thoughts, although the intellect refers to the ability of the mind that goes beyond insight, such as to grasp the truth, fine. Although the intellect is normally treated as a good thing in holy writings, it can be misled by the heart, which is the ultimate ruling force in the soul of a person. I didn't know that. It's the ultimate ruling force in the soul of a person. This is out, as President Obama said, above my pay grade. There's a difference between a perverse heart, ekesh lev, as in the previous chapter, segment 11:12, and a corrupted heart, na'avel lev. So we're looking at the difference between a perverse and the corrupted, as this proverb. Both have been led astray by the evil inclination. I'm getting into stuff I don't want to get into. By the Yetzer Hara, by the evil inclination. But the perverse heart is affected by misdirected sensuality, and the corrupted heart is affected by erroneous logic. I'm getting too deep for this show, and for myself, frankly. Let's go on to the next verse, Mishlei chapter 12, verse 9. The verse is, and it's entitled Dignity and Toil. The verse is, it is better to be undignified, and do one's own work than to maintain self-esteem at the cost of going hungry. So if you know any people with high self-esteem who aren't working, good luck to them. But if you know some people who are they've gone to this is basically what's better for society: serve or working a waitress job or a waiter job. Not that I don't mean to disparage those jobs. That's not my intention. My intention is to describe. I'll read it again. It is better to be undignified, do one's own work, than to maintain self-esteem at the cost of going hungry. So he entitles it Dignity and Toil. Does this generate? And so I have a comment. Does this generation understand the word dignity? If you say to any old timer in their 80s, I don't hear people use the word dignity these days, what do you think? They'll nod that they don't hear dignity anymore. Sometimes you'll hear a funeral home will refer to dignity, but no one it's a lost word. It's a hieroglyphic. It's from another society. Dignity. So this thing about doing work that and having dignity. A plumber once told me. He said, "You think I'm all full of grime and everything, but get this. And forgive me for this. When I look in the toilet." When you look in the toilet, you know what you see. When I look in the toilet, says the plumber, I see dollar signs. There's a bumper sticker. So, about dignity and toil, it's better to be undignified and do one's own work than to maintain self-esteem at the cost of going hungry. If you're concerned with the loss of dignity, remember that there's no loss of dignity as great as being dependent on others. And let me tell you something. I was a judge with the Canada Pension Plan with the disability payments. And dignity, baby. Dignity. Chapter 12, verse 10. Time for a commercial. Owen, I have nothing to introduce this commercial, but it's a good time to introduce a commercial. Take it away.
Simple lang kumita kahit nasa bahay ka lang. Gamit ang iyong Show My King online franchise business. Step 1, you post. Step 2, we deliver. Step 3, you earn. Tandaan, sa Show My King lang yan.
Our company is committed to providing truthful, honest, competent, and result-oriented service through advising and representing our clients in Canada and overseas in a wide range of immigration matters. We focus on providing support, building dependable relationships, and promoting success. We are dedicated to understanding what results you want and to helping you understand what actions we can take on your behalf.
We are back from that brilliant segue off to a commercial, and we're on to, still in chapter 12, but we're on to verse 10, where the Nafshi Project calls it compassion and cruelty, two of my best friends. The verse reads that Tzaddik, the righteous, the good guy, knows the needs of his animal, but the compassion of the bad guy is cruelty. So right off the bat, why is he saying the compassion of the bad guy is cruelty? It should be the fault of the bad guy is cruelty, or it shouldn't be the compassion. Maybe it should be. Maybe I misunderstand the word. Now that I'm looking at it, maybe I misunderstand the word compassion. Key concept, and think of employees as I read this. The Torah teaches us to emulate our Creator, and this, it hits me with different thoughts. One of the flaws philosophically of the women's liberation movement and similar perspectives, in my humble opinion, is that they strive to be like men. And the dean of my rabbinical college, of which I am not a grad, I didn't get ordination, he always said, why do they want to be like men? We're trying to teach them to be like God. They're selling themselves short. The Torah teaches us to emulate our Creator and show compassion to those less fortunate or less capable than we are. Our compassion must extend to the poor who are dependent upon us, to all the members of our household, and even to the animals in our care. And I add, even to employees if you're supervising. In order to be but he focuses on this thing about animals. Don't forget, society was all agricultural except for mining and sailing until just a few generations ago. In order to be able to show compassion, the righteous, the good guy, the tzaddik, must know the needs of those who are dependent upon him, the employees. He must have an idea of what kinds of emotions they are experiencing so that he can be sure to treat them with kindness and consideration. A bad boss is bad. A failure to act with compassion is the mark of a wicked person, a Russia. Russia's a serious word here. The Russia is insensitive to the needs of others, and so in place of compassion, his actions reflect the cruelty of his nature. Even when he seems to be acting with compassion, his motivation is self-interest, the bonus at the end of the year. The appearance of compassion is only a cover which he or she hopes to use for his or her own advantage. Those who know who I'm thinking about are right. The righteous knows the needs of his animal, but the compassion of the bad guys is cruelty. I don't understand that behemto. No, behema. Rachme. The Rachme. I don't know. Any rate, in additional insights, a person whose behavior is guided by the Torah, by the holy books, etc., will always be mindful of those who depend on him. By contrast, when someone's pity is not rooted in the Torah but derives from his own inclinations, he can just as easily become cruel as compassionate, depending upon his mood. He can go from a mood swing. The bad guy may feed a poor man, but without offering him a comforting smile. Ladies and gentlemen, offer a smile. That's all those cliches. Any rate, chapter 12. I'm a little depressed from reading this a little bit, but I'm getting the words out. Idleness and toil, and this will refer to retirement planning, which I did for 27 years. Key concepts. People who work hard all their lives often see their goals as being able to idle away their final years. They see the ideal state of a person as passivity because it is undermining. Because it is undemanding. This is a perverted attitude toward because fulfillment is granted to men through toil, or to mankind through toil. Man was put in this world to overcome challenges. He gains true gratification only through being active. Through hard work, the farmer or the producer of the Wisdom Show, is able to grow the food that he needs to feed himself and his family. If his hard work is applied to learning the Holy Writ, as they say, the Torah, he will be rewarded with knowledge and will be able to teach others. That's me, guys. If he is enticed by the examples of idlers who while away their time with unproductive pastimes, that's golf, he will live an unfulfilled life. No offense to my friends who are golfers. Such a person shows himself to lack the self-discipline that enables him to do what his Creator expects of him. The verse is, one who works his soil will have his fill of bread, but he who follows idlers lacks a self-disciplining heart. This proverb uses the example of the farmer to demonstrate the importance and value of hard work. The farmer is literally fulfilling the direction of his Creator. By the sweat of your brow shall you eat bread. That's in the first, that's the Adam and Eve story. He is contrasted with the individual who chooses an unworthy different model. The idlers who spend their time in empty-headed passivity. Such people exhibit a lack of self-discipline, which is described as having a chasar lev, a deficient heart. He goes on we'll be dealing that with in future chapters. So what do we say? Work hard, don't play golf. Okay. And in additional insights, the hard-working farmer of this proverb may also be understood as an allegory for one who develops himself. He himself is the soil that needs to be improved. His perfected Torah knowledge and good midos and good character traits are his reward. Tilling the soil is about him. That's nice. One who works his soil will have his fill of bread. Beautiful. But he who follows idlers lacks a self-disciplining heart. Chapter 12, verse 12. By the way, we'll discuss this in a minute or two. The next one is about greed. The verse is the bad guy, the Russia, craves the spoilers of evil. Sorry, the bad guy craves the spoils of evildoers, but the root of righteousness will provide their livelihood. The character of an individual determines his approach to earning his livelihood. The wicked person, the Russia, is greedy by nature, and so he focuses his attention on attaining the object of his desire in the quickest way possible without regard to the cost. Since his mind is clouded by visions of wealth and easy money, he yearns to participate in the schemes of evildoers so that he can share in their ill-gotten gains. On the other hand, the righteous person, the tzaddik, is not focused on money. He does not sacrifice his principles in the pursuit of material gains, but earns his livelihood in an honorable, productive way that does not depend on the harm being done to others. See how this followed the previous thing where I was referring to the scumbag employer and the idleness. You see, it's not a paragraph break in the text, but it could, should, would be. The Russia, the bad guy, craves the spoils of evildoers, but the root of tzaddikim, of the righteous, will provide their livelihood. This proverb expresses the greed of that bad guy in terms of his craving. He sees the ill-gotten gains of evildoers and thinks only in terms of gaining access to their treasures. He is contrasted with the tzaddikim who are concerned with establishing a meaningful relationship in the world around them. Insight, that's me. They are confident that if they put down roots and learn an honest way of making a living, they will be able to support their families. The analogy of the righteous to a tree with deep roots references the first, he says Mizmor, first paragraph of the book of Psalms. He is like a tree that has been planted beside streams of water, which yields its fruit in due season. This is about my third time. This is my third time going it over with this commentary. This is my about seventh time going over it, it leaps out each time sharper, sharper, sharper. Additional insights. The righteous are compared to trees that put down deep roots in the environment. As the trees yield fruit, so do the righteous produce what they need to sustain life. As we're referring to getting married, that's the kiddies. Thank God my 3 kids have all done well for themselves and for society as I see it. And there's always room for improvement. The righteous are like trees that are able to withstand stormy winds because of their deep roots. Therefore, the fruit that they provide can depend upon, in contrast to the get-rich-quick schemes of the bad guys who are all over Facebook and are inherently uncertain and are likely to fail. The fruit produced by these, so there's a couple things going on. The tree metaphor, the roots metaphor, the fruit metaphor. What do they produce? How are they anchored against calamities like the wind? The fruit produced by the righteous takes time to sprout and mature, but the passage of time enhances its quality. The schemes of the bad guys are designed to yield instant results, but they don't offer the insurance of permanence. The bad guy is drawn to the company of evildoers because they seem to offer the fastest and easiest road to riches. But the righteous are dependent only on God's help. They rely on their own efforts and concentrate on productive labor. It's a deeper class to discuss what we mean by with God's help and our own efforts. People misunderstand it. It's fundamental to understanding religion and spirituality. It's almost like it appears on the surface a confusing wordplay, but it's deeper. And I hinted at it a few weeks ago in Bob Dylan's song, "You Got to Serve Somebody," because Christians in America and Congress and Senate make fools of themselves because they speak in their own coded language and they don't even understand that it's coded language. The left does the same thing also, but not as it doesn't. Chapter 12, verse 13. Oh, we're up to an hour. I'll do this one, then we'll close it up in a couple of minutes. This is called unguarded speech, or as I say, they say a slip of the tongue. This is a slip of the lip. The verse is, there is a dangerous trap in the misdeed of the lips, but a righteous guy escapes the trouble. The proverb describes unguarded speech as a dangerous trap and associates this trap with the misdeed of the lips. This is because the lips symbolize superficial, thoughtless talk. They are the organ of speech that is furthest from the mind, and therefore they represent a weakening of the power of the mind in controlling speech. Whereas the tongue is back there, closer to the mind in the way this proverb is set up. It's also worth noting that the word in the misdeed of the lips, I'll try to be careful, bepesha shaftim, the second and third letter in the first word are like P and S, P and Shin, P and S. The first letters in the second word are S and P. They've reversed the letters to get misdeed and lips. The letters are reversed. So it's a cute little word play. It's a letter play here. Additional insights. Lips are the most visible organ of speech. When a person says foolish things, it is as though his lips are moving without control. A person who has chosen his words carefully will find it easier to explain what he really meant. It's not a slip of the tongue, it's a slip of the lip. Okay, we're concluding with halfway through chapter 12, and I see that'll come to our new format we got to take out. Conclusion, new projects. We're looking to build a team, so if your church, synagogue, or book club, or any intellectual club wants to imitate or join in our project, we will guide you. If you want to buy any of the books we use, we'll mail you a copy or facilitate it somehow. If you want to be a guest presenter or an off-camera guest, we will prepare and coach you. We will take on families to learn wisdom. We would look for sponsorships of chapters. The show is growing in viewership. We're well over 1,000 viewers now, and please, please, please subscribe and share and make the world a better place with more wisdom. Really, frankly, what I've just read, nothing to my knowledge, certainly in my public high school education, there was nothing like this. I don't know about today. Help your kids, spouse, friends, colleagues, boss, and humanity writ large. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the share button. We are one of the sources for evidence that it's better to be wise than woke. Tell your friends. Want to be a bit wiser? Hit the subscribe button. Want your spouse, your kids, your friends, your colleagues, your boss, and humanity writ large to be a bit wiser? Hit that share button. At The Wisdom Show, we share wisdom. We'll be back here next week. Subscribe, share, and have a happy rest of Sukkot, and have a good day. Signing off.
The views and opinions expressed on all radio shows broadcast on Tom's Radio
ng Department